Hey, good morning to everybody. Happy Monday. It's Daryl here. It is bright and freaking early, man. It's 3 a.m. here in Connecticut on the East Coast. Okay, I may have some new viewers today. I'm going to talk about somebody I've never talked about on my channel before, so there's a possibility I'll pull in some new viewers. Let me fill you in. I'm going to talk about Justin Bieber. Okay, I came across a story on TMZ. And usually I pick a story, I pick the topic to talk about on this channel if something strikes me, if something reminds me of something I've been through, an experience, something I have a strong opinion about. And I came across this story on TMZ, and as usual, right down in the description, the link to the story will be right down below, along with the link to his Instagram, the pictures that I'm going to talk about. Okay, so this story is about Justin Bieber taking selfies of himself crying. Okay, stick with me here. And right off the bat, it reminded me of a time that I cried. And I call this my confessional. I'm probably going to use this picture in the thumbnail. A picture I took of myself driving home, crying. And I've never talked about this to anybody before. I've never shown anybody these pictures. This is when my girlfriend, my soulmate, Audrey, passed away on August 5th, 2021 from COVID. And her wake and her funeral was about 2 months later. And it reminds me, my hands are shaking a little bit already. It reminds me, when I saw this picture of Justin Bieber crying, it reminds me of, is it okay for a man to cry? And I'm going to describe to you something the way I felt that day, and it bothered me. And I'm going to talk about that. Okay, so let's talk about Justin Bieber first of all. Okay, this was just put on I've never talked about him before. He's 30 years old. I had to look that up. I didn't even know how old Justin Bieber was. And it's on his Instagram page. Apparently, this guy posts more selfies than I do. I post a lot of selfies. I post a lot of selfies because I've changed a lot in the last 17 and a half years that I've been clean and sober. I've lost 92 pounds. I've been clean and sober for 17 and a half years. I had all my teeth fixed. All my teeth were broken off at the gum line and rotted. Every one. I stopped cutting my own hair and started going to a hairdresser. So I changed a lot, and I post a lot of selfies to show that if I could do this, if I could change so much, so could other people. That's the reason I post these. But people have problems when I post so many selfies. But that's not what this is about. So I want to talk about two pictures in particular that Justin Bieber posted. The first one he posted was a picture, I guess he smokes weed. And he's got a picture of him puffing, and he's got a picture of the actual buds. It reminded me, this is why I'm talking about this. It reminded me, because I'm from the old school. I'm 58 years old. And back when I was in high school, I used to smoke. And it reminded me of this one time. I wouldn't advise putting pictures of this stuff on social media. I know it's become legal, but because I'm from the old school, it still makes me cringe. To me, it's self-incriminating. It's something that it's not a good idea to post. It's going to be there forever, and you just don't know, like 20 years from now, if somebody's going to pull this up and it's going to bite you in the ass, like it did me. Okay, so I'm just going to talk about this really quick. Back in high school, I was smoking. I smoked every day. And I skipped a class. I went out to my car, and I was in photography. It's the only class I ever failed. I did great in high school, even though I was high all the time. And I went out to my car, me and my buddy, and we had a bag, and we put it in the center console. And we were so proud of this green bud since I can't even say it anymore. I've been clean and sober for so long. I don't even remember how to say Cincy. And we put it right in the center console, right there. And we were in photography. We had our cameras. That's how we got out of class to go take pictures, right? That's what we told the teacher we were going to go do. And I took pictures of the weed sitting on the center console. And we got them developed. I actually went and developed them myself in the dark room in school. And I threw them out the window when I was driving home one day. They were sitting in my car for a month or two, and I was driving home, and I threw them out the window. All of a sudden, I got visited by the cops about 2 months later. Apparently, some kids walking home from school found the pictures. They started showing around, oh, look at this. Somebody took pictures of weed. And it got around, and it got back to a teacher. The pictures on the side of the road got carried all the way back to the school, got given to a teacher. The teacher called the police. The police identified the center console as a 75 maroon 75 Charger, Dodge Charger. And there was only one maroon 75 Dodge Charger in the high school parking lot. So they decided they questioned me a little bit. And they put me on the hot seat. Back then, it wasn't cool to smoke weed at all. And when I see Justin putting pictures of weed up, himself smoking, I can't help it. I'm from the old school, man. And to me, I just cringe. It's self-incriminating. It's just something I just don't feel. Seeing him do it makes me feel uncomfortable. Okay, let's talk about the crying now. Okay, so Justin Bieber posts a picture of himself crying. He doesn't explain it at all. And I read the comments. And the comments, everybody is so concerned. Oh, dude, I want to see you happy. It must be great to have millions of people so concerned about you. Or maybe it's not. I don't know. And this is what his wife, Hailey Bieber, she says, he's a pretty crier. And I looked at that picture. And he is a pretty guy. He is pretty for a man. And even now, when he was a kid, he almost looked like he looked a little feminine, I thought, but I don't want to. If there's just Bieber fans, I don't want to tick you off. He is a pretty crier, all right. Me, not so much. Like I said, I actually took a picture of myself crying, and it reminded me of this incident when I started crying. Like I said, my girlfriend, we were broken. We were kind of going through a patch at the time. She moved down to Florida, and I was going to go down and move down with her. And as soon as she got to Florida in the summer of 2021, she caught COVID back when the Delta variant was in Florida, and she went into a hospital, intensive care, and in a month or two she was dead and gone. And it killed me. It still kills me now. I mean, we were boyfriend and girlfriend back in 3rd grade, in 4th grade, 5th grade. We went our separate ways back in our 20s. She got married, but then we hooked up again when we were in our 50s. She was in recovery, I was in recovery. We moved in together, and we were soulmates. And I lost her to this, and it still wrecks me today. And so I went to her funeral. This is what I want to talk about, because I still feel, I don't know if I should have cried. I don't know if I should have showed as much emotion as I did. I walked in. I went there by myself, and I'm gonna have a picture of myself driving there or driving home from there where I'm crying, and I took a picture of myself. I walked in, and there's a line of people waiting to get in, and I see, right, you could sign a book when you go into a wake, and there's a picture of her right there, and I couldn't help it. I managed to keep myself together up to that moment. And then I just made this, I don't know, I made some kind of sound like, and I started bawling, man. I couldn't help it, it just wrecked me. And the people in front of me turned around and just looked at me, and right then I started to feel weird. I mean, people were upset, but it was my soulmate, man. It wrecked me. Okay, so I go in to the wake, and I didn't know that she had been cremated. I don't know if this had something to do with the COVID or whatever, or, because the body and everything. That kind of surprised me. And I walked, and there's her mother, her sister, her nephew, and her father. Okay, and they're very strong Lithuanian people. She was from Lithuania, and her parents moved here. They're very strong. I wouldn't say like Russian, but very that kind of very stoic, strong, manly type. And I'm just losing it. I go in front of the picture. There's no casket. I go in front of the picture, and I'm just crying. I'm just losing it. And I go up to her mother, and her mother just gives me a big hug. Daryl, I'm sorry. And I say I'm sorry to her, and she just hugged, and it felt good, man. It felt really good. And then I go to her sister, and her sister gives me a big hug, And then I go to her nephew. Her nephew's in high school. He's a cool kid. He's got long hair. He was about 15 or 16 at the time. He's in a band. I love the kid. The kid reminded me of myself. And he kind of looked at me, and he almost looked like he was going to start laughing. Because we had a joking relationship, and he looked at me like he thought I was kidding around. Like he was waiting for me to start joking or something. Like he looked at me like, like he thought I wasn't serious. you know, and I shook his hand and I said, I'm sorry. But then, this is the point I remember. I went to her father, and, you know, of course, a father dating a daughter, you know, I was always very respectful of him. He's a good man. You know, he reminded me of myself. He was a designer, a draftsman, or is a designer and a draftsman. But the way he looked at me, I got the feel, maybe I was just self-conscious, but I got the feeling he was looking at me like, you know, Daryl, man up, get it together. Because he reached out and he shook my hand, and he shook it hard, like, you know, like, get it, and I got the feeling like he was going, you know, get it together, dude. You know, he didn't say that, but he just shook my hand like that, you know. And it just, I've thought about it. I've never talked about this. This is the first time I've ever talked about it. And when I saw Justin Bieber's picture crying, it reminded me of that. So then I moved into I just had to get out of there. I was just losing it. And some of the other people came up and gave me a big hug. And I just ended up walking out and getting in my car and driving away. A lot of times, you know, I'm used to being alone, and I just have I didn't know what to say and everything. And as I was driving home, I took this picture that you're going to see on the thumbnail of myself crying. And I don't think I'm a pretty crier, you know, just like Hailey Bieber said that Justin Bieber is he's a pretty crier. I didn't feel very well. I'm about 30 years older than him too. So I don't think I'm anywhere near as pretty as him in general. But, you know, I never showed anybody these pictures. I'm probably going to use them in my thumbnail just to make this point. When I saw this article about Justin Bieber taking a selfie of himself crying and Hailey calling him a pretty crier, it reminded me of this selfie I took crying. And I want to know what you guys think. Is it okay for a man to cry? You know, I couldn't control it. You know, I just lost one of the people I love most in this whole world. It's almost 3 years later. And I think about her every single day. I miss her. I hear songs on the radio. The smell of warm air reminds me of going to the beach with her. I'm getting goosebumps now. It still wrecks me. It left a huge hole in my life. There's always going to be a big part of me missing. Let me know what you think. Is it okay for a man to cry? Is it okay for a man to take a picture of a selfie of himself crying? All right, let me know. I got to talk about Bam Margera. He's on Instagram again, and he's losing it. I got to see how the views went from yesterday before I do another video about this, because he's on another rant on Instagram. So I did a video about that yesterday, and I got to talk about this in my next video. That'll be in a little while. You guys have a good Monday.